Hi everyone, welcome to CMC's UK at Kidscreen pre-briefing. I'm Greg. I run the editorial side of the Children's Media Conference, and I'll be leading the virtual side of the two delegations which CMC is running to Kidscreen in 2022.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a long time member of the CMC committee. In fact, I think I was there at the beginning. And together with Greg, we've led delegations out to Kidscreen, which was originally in New York and is now in Miami. And we've done that since the CMC started supporting the groups of UK delegates that attend and we hope thrive in Kidscreen.
So in the next 90 minutes, we'll take you through some of the key practical and strategic questions about what's on offer at both Kidscreen in Miami and the virtual summit that takes place in early March.
And we're going to hear about what's on offer at each version of Kidscreen from two members of the team organising the summits. And we're going to get some tips on how best to navigate the special networking opportunities and mechanisms for contacting fellow delegates and arranging meetings, both the virtual and in real life.
And we'll get the lowdown on just why Kidscreen is valuable to freelancers and companies from people who've been many times. And we'll get some top tips on travel planning and where to stay. We'll do a quick rundown of the benefits of joining the UK delegation, again, in both cases.
And I'll be talking to people who make and take the pitches and about their top tips on how to get the best out of your time and maximise your chances, because it's a really valuable thing once you arrive to be able to be able to do that at the market. We've got a range of speakers who'll be contributing in the various sections we've got today. Suffice it to say, they all know Kidscreen very well, one way or the other. And we want to take as many questions from all of you as possible. So please use the Q&A down at the bottom there. And please send us your messages. We'll get through as many as we possibly can. And we'll hopefully be able to get back to you on the ones that we can't take. But it's your chance to ask the questions.
And when it's all done at 4:30, some of us will be in the CMC networking space called Wonder. So wander into Wonder if you can. Jump across there using your Chrome browser. We'd really recommend that for best results. If you haven't registered in Wonder, you can do that now while listening to me blathering on. It's really quick and easy. Do use Chrome though. That's what makes it easiest. And then you'll be ready to chat. If you've registered for Wonder during CMC in the summer, you won't need to register again. It will remember you rather miraculously. We're posting the link and the password for access to our particular bit of Wonder in the chat right now. And I think I'm right in saying apparently there's some sort of snowball feature going on in Wonder, so look out. I'm hoping it's the alcoholic version, not something cold. We'll see.
And before we get started, we want to say a huge thank you to the Departments of International Trade. They support the UK at Kidscreen financially, which is incredibly welcome for all of us that take part at whatever level. They also support us by sending some of their best people over with us to Kidscreen, and they work with us, so stand around the screens, and they're there when we're virtual as well. So they offer advice, contacts, information, and they also talk to you about government schemes that can help your business. So we hope that Tony Humphreys from the DIT will be in our Wonder group later on. So to get started and get on with finding out more about what's happening, I want to welcome our first two guests all the way from Toronto. We were discussing the light and we were all talking about how it's going to get dark during the afternoon. They're there in sunny Toronto. So we have Maggie Wilkins and Nelson. So welcome. Nelson is the associate producer and heads up the sales team at Brunico. Brunico is the company that runs Kidscreen along with other events worldwide, of which there are many. Maggie is the event sales manager, and they both know the ins and outs of Kidscreen, which lifts to get in, how to find things, and more importantly, the new look than anybody else. So I'm going to hand over to them because they've got a presentation that will take us through hopefully most of our questions. Over to the two of you.
Hi, everyone. Nelson and I are thrilled to welcome the UK delegation back to Kidscreen and hope that everybody will be able to join us in Miami. We're going to go through a brief presentation today about what we're offering at both our in-person and virtual events in 2022. Hopefully this presentation will give you some clarity and peace of mind on how Kidscreen will work in February. So with that, I will get started. Kidscreen Summit is taking place February 14th to 17th at the Intercontinental in Miami. Each year, Kidscreen Summit brings together attendees from around the world to connect, initiate business, and engage in critical dialogue on issues and trends that are affecting the industry. Recognizing that not everyone will be able to join us in Miami for whatever reason, we are offering a virtual event a couple weeks following the in-person summit from March 7th to 11th. Registration to the Miami event gives you access to the virtual event as well. This is why we're holding the virtual component a couple weeks after the in-person event. This gives everybody some time to get settled back at home, to recharge before participating in another event. It also gives the staff some time to recover as well. So here's a brief breakdown of what's included in registration for each portion of the event. Live event registration includes keynotes and marquee conference sessions, facilitated networking sessions, which we'll talk about in more detail shortly, general meeting space in the delegate lounge and our new outdoor rooftop deck, access to Kidscreen Exchange, where you can chat to other attendees and set up meetings in advance, and food and cocktails. A quick note about registration for the in-person event is that live event registration closes February 7th to allow us enough time to validate your proof of vaccination. So make sure that you're booking in advance because that is new this year. We're not going to be doing on-site registrations. A Kidscreen Summit Virtual will feature virtual-only panels, presentations, and Q&As. Additional networking opportunities, virtual pavilions, which UK at Kidscreen will have as well, and recordings of keynotes and panel highlights from Miami. I personally love this feature for our Miami attendees because I hear every year that our regulars don't have time for the panels because they're so busy with meetings, and now you can do both.
Hi everyone, let's talk about the elephant in the room, health, safety and COVID. It's a weird world these days, and we want to assure you that Kidscreen is doing everything in its power to keep our attendees and staff safe during the event. That said, we're requiring that all delegate staff and visitors be fully vaccinated with a vaccine approved by the FDA or WHO. If you're not vaccinated, you'll be required to undergo daily on-site rapid antigen testing at your own cost. Attendees will be required to upload their proof of vaccination following registration and, more importantly, before arriving at the hotel. Anyone who fails to do so will be declined access to the event unless they pay a surcharge and undergo daily on-site testing. This also means that last minute and on-site registration won't be possible this time around. As Maggie mentioned, each attendee must have their proof of vaccination validated in advance. So registering early is more important than ever to allow yourself enough runway. On-site, we're basing our protocols on CDC guidelines. So that means delegates will be required to wear masks in all indoor spaces and can only be removed to eat or drink in designated areas or outdoors. We've also just had confirmation from the Intercontinental Miami that as a company mandate, by February, all hotel staff working the event will be vaccinated as well, which is great news. Rest assured, we're keeping our eye on the new Omicron variant and its global effects. We'll be making any changes and additional policies based on CDC guidelines to keep you all safe. Other health and safety initiatives include a new outdoor meeting space on the Sky Deck. If you were there in 2020, you may have seen this new lawn area on the pool deck. Come February, we'll have meeting tables and sofas set up there and available on a first come, first served basis. It's also weather permitting. Miami's sunny and warm 95% of the time, but can get the odd February drizzle or wind, especially poolside. Inside the hotel, we're adhering to all social distancing measures and observing maximum capacity limits in rooms. Throughout the venue, we'll have ample touch-free hand sanitizing stations. Hotel staff will ensure high cleanliness standards throughout the meeting rooms. And as mentioned, they'll be vaccinated by the time the summit rolls around. We've also gotten rid of self-service buffets. Instead, boxed meals will be available and all food counters will be attendance served in 2022. Our full health and safety policy is on the website, and I highly encourage you to have a look at it and let us know if you have any questions. Elephant in the room aside, we're seeing a ton of excitement from our attendees for a return to Miami. After being virtual since 2020, more than ever, our industry needs the opportunity to meet face-to-face again. Some of you may have had a little taste of normality at MIPCOM or BLE. We want to build on that energy and excitement to all meet under one roof again, or even better, out in the Miami sunshine.
Let's talk a little bit about the facilitated networking opportunities in Miami that we're known for. Signups for our one-on-one pitching sessions are opening up in the new year. Another important reason to get registered early so that you are set up on the platform before the holidays. Both speed pitching and coffee with slots are awarded through a lottery system. Speed pitching is an opportunity for 8-minute pitch meetings with top broadcasters. And coffee with is the same format as speed pitching, but with slightly longer meetings of 15 minutes with buyers, plus you get to enjoy a gourmet coffee while doing so. Spots in these sessions are limited. However, we do have a wait line on site for no-shows. These spots are awarded first come, first serve. Intimate discussion groups include lunching with, so you get to share a meal in a small group with industry experts who can give you guidance on how to commercialize your kids' IP in the digital space and consumer products world. And cocktails with, chat over drinks with network with leading kids broadcasters. There is no substitute for good research. In fact, the overwhelming message that we get from buyers around the globe is do your homework before you show up at Summit. I'm sure you'll hear more about this from our other panelists today, but our 30 minutes with sessions give you a chance to hear about the future plans and priorities of the kids industry major content investors firsthand, as well as participate in some Q&As and meet and greets. You are welcome to attend as many of these popular buyer briefing sessions as you can fit in your schedule. We also give you access to Kidscreen's global pitch guide ahead of time, where we've profiled both big and boutique buyers in most regions, allowing you to find out what they're looking for and if it's the right home for your project. After almost 2 years of no in-person pitching and networking, we can't stress enough to do your homework and know who you're talking to prior to heading to Miami.
Included in registration is access to Kidscreen Exchange, which acts as a marketing tool for your company and projects and allows you to connect with each other before heading to Miami. This is also the central hub for our Kidscreen virtual event in March. We recommend you register as early as possible. The earlier you do, the more access you have to the delegate list, and you can find the companies you want to meet during the event and get a head start on meeting requests before they fill out after the Christmas break. Once it's finalized next week, check out the official agenda and earmark the sessions you want to attend live and book your meetings around them. During the virtual event in March, similar to earlier this year, UK Kidscreen will have its own pavilion. All UK delegates and companies from both the in-person and virtual event will be featured on the landing page of the pavilion, similar to what you see here. My advice to everyone is to start putting together your company bios and your project descriptions and creating your scissor reel ready to be uploaded when the platform is up and running sometime in January. The CMC will be graciously collecting and uploading this information on your behalf.
For those unable to travel for whatever reason, we are offering speed pitching and cocktails with opportunities virtually. These signups will be for virtual only registrants, so you'll get first dibs on those spots. Additional virtual roundtable networking opportunities will be available to all attendees, so those who are returning from Miami, as well as the virtual only attendees. There's pro tips, chat room, meet the, and speed networking, which will all take place in AirMeet. This format allows you to move around from table to table and make as many connections as possible. This is also the program we use for our virtual delegate lounge, which will be open 24 hours a day from March 7th to 11th. My biggest tip for making the most out of the virtual delegate lounge is to not be afraid to sit down at a table. Once you sit down, others will follow suit. And last year we saw Sarah even start a couple of party tables, which was a lot of fun.
So reach out to the CMC to confirm your attendance with the UK at Kidscreen delegation. When you do so, they'll give you a promo code for a discounted registration rate for the Miami event. There is no promo code needed for the virtual only registration, but it's important to let the CMC know that you'll be participating under the delegation so you can maximize your presence. All in all, we're stoked to be back in Miami. Coming from Toronto in the middle of winter, it's the perfect dose of sunshine to kickstart the year. And judging by the weather over in the UK lately, it couldn't come sooner for you all either. We hope to all see you in Miami next year. Thank you very much.
I have to say, I'm keeping everything crossed and can't wait to be out there. As we haven't got much time, just a few questions. One is, how much does it cost for the PCR test on site?
Yeah, so the PCR test that we're offering for those who are traveling internationally, it's $140, which you can schedule or show up for. And then if you are unvaccinated and doing your daily tests, it'll be around $30 a day.
Thank you very much. The other question somebody's asked me is, what about the cancellation fee? Because obviously everybody wants to come, but they don't know about their health, etc. So how does that work?
So for cancellations for international travelers, our cancellation policy allows for if the event is canceled or if the government restricts you from traveling to Miami, you are able to get a full refund, transfer to the virtual event, or transfer to the following year's summit. So there is some option there. If you're still on the fence about attending the in-person event, I would recommend holding off your registration a little longer until you're 100% sure.
Although there is, as you say, the reason to get in there, because we've been saying to people, everybody's going to get full because there haven't been that many opportunities since last February to go and meet people. And that brings me on to the next question that I've been hearing in the ether, which is, some companies are really tricky to get in. And I'm not asking you as the organisers, because Greg wouldn't want to have to do it at CMC, but how can people in the UK get a higher strike rate at getting in and meeting some of those companies, whether that's real or whether it's virtual? And I'm not naming names deliberately.
I would say just sort of second what Maggie said before, to do your research. Reach out to them nice and early. Obviously, people get busy leading up to the Christmas time, and after Christmas, the schedules get filled up. Reach out early to them. Get your pitches down packed nice and early. Like you said, no one's seen each other in the last 2 years, so they'll be sort of chomping at the bit to get there. And once they're there, they want pitches fine-tuned and ready to go. Right.
And our delegate list is available now. So it's on our website publicly, so you can take a look in there. And it does show who's attending virtual only, as well as the in-person event. And then once you're registered, you get the delegate list on Exchange, where you can send messages and start setting your meetings up.
And last year, once you got in, we could get to a file that we could then keep on our computers to go through and do that tracking of which company and export it. I think another question would be the difference between in real life, where people, you can go and doorstop. I did suggest to Nelson last year that we had, the virtual corridor with the virtual buffet and the virtual toilet, so you could stalk people around. And as you said, if people were scared to go in and mix and talk, how do you see the two things playing from the perspective of the big players who are going to go and hide?
It's funny, like
them out.
It's funny from what we've heard and from our conversations with the bigger players. There's a thirst for content. There's a thirst for content for the last 2 years, where they've sort of just been coasting, I guess, where they need new ideas. Content absorption's higher than ever right now. So the thirst is there. I don't think they'll be hiding, to be honest. I think they'll be there ready to meet everyone. So that's the impression that we're getting anyway.
We're seeing some of those big players come with bigger teams as well, prepared to take more pitches because they're thirsty for content.
And it's good when they come out into the virtual events that you have. And we're going to have to finish in a second, but your speed pitching virtually last year, people were getting a lot out of being in the queue. They were meeting lots of people in the virtual queue and saying that was a great networking opportunity in itself, as it is in real life. Are you going to have more of those?
Yes, so speed pitching is done in the same way this year virtually as it was last year. So it does give you the opportunity to wait in line with everybody else. It recreates the opportunities that we have on site. So on site in Miami, we have a wait line. And some of the best networking happens in that wait line. Producers and creators are talking to each other and figuring out what they do and if they can work together. So it was important to us when recreating the virtual event that we had that opportunity as well. So yes, that's going to be the exact same this year.
Be fantastic. So thank you both very much. I'm now going to hand over to Greg and Lauren, who are going to talk about the CMC delegation. Greg and Lauren.
Thanks, Sarah, and thanks, Nelson and Maggie. I shall miss not seeing you in Miami. So that's what you can expect at Kidscreen and Kidscreen Virtual. Now we come to the part on how we at CMC can help you. Lauren is joining us. Lauren Bartels is Head of Operations at CMC, and she'll be with Sarah on the UK delegation to Miami this year, as she was 2 years ago when it was last in real life. And one of the big benefits of joining the delegation to Miami is the discount on the Kidscreen ticket, and Lauren can explain how that works.
Yeah, so hi everyone. So as Greg mentioned, we'll be running the 2 delegations to Kidscreen this year. And the first of those is to the Miami in person. So the cost to join the UK delegation to Miami is £435, which plus VAT, which you can book on our website. And one of the major benefits of that is obviously that you can purchase your Kidscreen Summit ticket for a discounted rate, which is $1,395. So that's a discount of $600 on the current price. So it's quite a good deal. And the good thing about that is that the UK discount remains in place until the 7th of February when registration closes. So once you book onto the UK delegation, you'll receive an email from me with the discount code. The virtual summit is the second delegation ticket that we're running, and that is £100 plus VAT. And as Nelson mentioned, you can just book on straight away. So there's no discount on that, unfortunately, for the Kidscreen Summit, but it's $595, so that's quite a low price. Obviously, if you book with us, you get all the support as well, so we make sure you're all with the UK delegation. And just to note that if you purchase a UK delegation ticket for Miami, you also receive all the delegation support for the virtual event as well.
And will there be a stand or a zone like we normally have it in Miami? Table lamps, all that stuff?
There will indeed. Yeah, there might be some sweeties, there might be some tea bags as well. We had Yorkshire tea last time. So we'll have a own dedicated area again. That includes a branded stand, and we're sort of in the corner of the ballroom. We have a giant stand up there which is all branded, and it'll have some project stills from some of our UK companies. We'll have some lovely Union Jack lamps that Greg just mentioned that'll be on all our tables. There's absolutely no way anybody mistakes us for any other delegation. We're definitely the UK delegation. And we'll also have meeting booking for tables. So we'll have about 8 tables this year. And they are just for our UK delegation members to book. Space is really tight in the Intercontinental, so it's really helpful to have those on standby, as it's really difficult once you've made a meeting to find somewhere to have that meeting. So we'll coordinate a booking system with our UK delegation. So once you've got your meetings booked, you book in a slot on the meeting tables. We also have a show rail, which will be going round and round and round on a giant TV that we'll have in our area. And we have a sort of reception area where people can come and talk to. There'll be myself and Sarah there, as well as DIT representatives. So anybody who wants to come and talk about the UK companies, and we're there for you as well for any assistance that you need. A couple of other benefits to mention is that as a UK delegation member, you'll have your profile online. If you've already booked on, Jackie's probably been in contact with you already. So we put those onto our UK Kidscreen webpage for people to contact you and have your company profile up there. And we'll also be making an information PDF pack for the UK delegation, and that'll give you a lot of helpful advice on Miami itself, as well as how to navigate Kidscreen once you get there.
And then what's the equivalent in terms of benefit for the virtual event then? What benefits do I get?
So the virtual event, we have, as Nelson mentioned, we'll have our own virtual pavilion. So that's basically the stand translated into an online world. No lamps, but there will be UK branding on it. And you can visit, or people who are at Kidscreen will be able to visit that and have a look at the UK companies. And that will include all of the people that went to Miami on the delegation, as well as people who've just registered for the virtual delegation. So we all come together in one big delegation for the virtual event. You'll have your UK company profile online in the pavilion. Nelson and Maggie might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think with Kidscreen, you only put your individual profile on the exchange, whereas in the actual pavilion, you'll be able to put your company logo and profile as well. And
just,
as well,
sorry to interrupt, Lauren, just to differentiate there, the exchange is the big database of people who've ever been to Kidscreens that is then sort of parceled up into, yes, you're coming to this Kidscreen, and it's the area where everybody mails each other and uses sort of LinkedIn level profiles of a
set
person.
up your meetings and things like that.
But then on the pavilion, you've got your own profile, which can be company based.
Yeah, so it's you can put your logo on there, and obviously your contact details as well, and people can then have a link through to your company, and they can contact you and set up a meeting with you there. They'll also have a show reel on it, which will loop round again with the Miami companies, the companies that went to Miami, plus the virtual companies. And the other big thing about the pavilion is that each UK delegation member will have their own table, a virtual table in the UK pavilion. So that's basically their own video conferencing room. So it all links together in the Kidscreen virtual exchange. So you can make your meetings, have your own calendar in there, and then sort of click through. So it's quite a smooth process to click through and have your own virtual meetings. So hopefully that makes sense. But any questions, let me know.
It's complicated, but we try to make it sort of mirror, don't we? That's the idea. So I want to bring Sarah back in now to talk about some of the benefits the added benefits that we bring to coming to Kidscreen via the delegation. Tell us about breakfast briefings.
So we started the breakfast briefings partly as a way to bring everybody together, because it can be quite lonely when you go to a huge event and everybody's busy and your meetings aren't going quite as you'd wanted them to. And so we've started saying, let's start the day all together. Let's go and get breakfast, because we're all at the event. We'll get breakfast at the event and sit together. And we have found that a lot of those meetings have then meant that people within the delegation have actually started working together or given each other leads. So it becomes very collegiate. What we do is we have 30 minutes where we bring somebody in to help motivate us and give us a different viewpoint. So it's normally, we have a thought leader for the day, and they're normally somebody from a broadcaster or a platform that we might not have heard of, that we wouldn't get to. And the idea is that it's a very UK focused discussion, rather than being one that we could go to downstairs that Kidscreen put on, that they're all brilliant and wonderful. This is much more about how people see the UK, how they would do business with the UK, and what we could do differently to get a higher strike rate. So we try and do that to get everybody focused.
And we sort of do the same thing for the virtual delegation, don't we? Because that's the way we see a bit of us being able to bring you some benefit. I mean, we're obviously there for advice and help during the virtual conference, but in the virtual delegation, Sarah's going to, as we did last year, Sarah's going to look after some sort of lunchtime get-togethers with occasional guests, which will be sort of those collegiate events, I think. And then I'm gonna do some very informal invitations to industry leaders to sort of meet me for tea each day, like we did last year. And they'll be short half hours, totally unprepped by me. So you'll have to put up with me saying, "Excuse me, I don't know what the questions are. Can you tell me what you want to be asked?" But it sort of works, because they do. And that's an opportunity. If a dozen or more of you drop into those, it's an opportunity for you to be introduced to that person as well, and to have a chat with them over that half hour. And then Sarah, the drinks reception. Tell us all about that.
So
Not that you're the famous drinks person.
Well, it's the hottest ticket in town, and normally, I've known. Although Lauren now comes, she's up with me with the drinks tickets in her pockets. That we have on the first night, on the Sunday night, we have a drinks reception before people go out to dinner before the first day. So if you do come, it's really important that you book your flight so that you can arrive at the hotel and change in order to get there, because we will have around 200 guests. From the UK, we try and limit it to just people on the delegation, and most of the other guests will be international people that you may not be able to reach. They may be broadcasters, but they may also be people of interest that you could do business with. So we try and bring them down. It is normally very well attended by a different cohort. So it's your chance to get in there and chat to them without having to pitch. So please don't pitch when you come. So we also want to know, if you are coming and you are registered, let us know if there's anybody in particular you'd like us to put on the list. It's likely they're already on, but you never know. We're always up for a new name to get in, particularly those hard to get to broadcasters. So let us know.
But also producers, that's the thing, because it would be terribly easy for us to invite hundreds and hundreds of producers, and we just can't, because they're obviously your competition in many ways. So while... But there are many of you in the delegation who want to meet producers, and what we need you to tell us is which ones do you want to meet. Or indeed, the other thing is, while we say no mates, please, it's not about mates, it is a business event. It is obviously incredibly useful. If you're going to Kidscreen and you're going to meet people you're already partnered with, you're going to have catch-up meetings and so on, then clearly you will want to, it would be only polite to invite partners and partner companies to the reception. So we need to know those as soon as you want to get that information to us with contact details, and they'll be added to the reception list.
I will say, both here and at the virtual event, we will be going around making sure everybody's mixing, because the point is it's a networking event, and it's not back to your mates because you've paid quite a lot of money to get out there. It's about networking. Same with the virtual. As Maggie and Nelson said, we had to work really hard to get people to come and mix, and then meetings started happening. And I want, just before we move on, to really thank, we've got two sponsors, Blue Zoo and Dubbit, who've stepped up to help get the party flowing, and they've sponsored the drinks event. So thank you very much to Blue Zoo and Dubbit.
All right, we'll move on. It's my bit next. It's me, isn't it? And I want to welcome, so thanks, Lauren. Thanks very much. Sarah will be back a bit later for the final section. I want to welcome Dominic Gardner, Sandy Nutkins, and Angela Salt, who are all, dare I say, old hands. What we want to do now is do a quick rundown on these different perspectives of attending Kidscreen and what you can get out of it and what you've got to put in to get the best benefit. So Dom is the Chief Executive Officer of Jetpack Distribution, which he founded in 2014 with his studio production partner Samka Productions, and it's gone on to become a leading distributor of global kids shows, including Dennis and Nasher Unleashed, Mowgli, Clangers, Wolf, Critters TV, Talking Tom and Friends, and many more. So Dom, quick answer. How long have you been going to Kidscreen?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask that. I don't know why I knew, but I was racking in my head. I remember it was New York.
Yeah, me too.
So that dates it somewhat. I have no idea, to be honest with you.
Before British delegations, though. Before British delegation. I think you were, I suspect you were one of those people who were spotted by Richard Powell at Department for International Trade in New York as a regular attendee, and he thought, hang on, why are we not supporting these people? Yeah. Which is what kicked the whole thing off. That's how they ended up with us. Yeah. Okay, I'll move on. Sandy and his company Mezzo Kids compose music Oh,
Yes.
why are we not surprised, Andy? For children's TV and animations. And over the last 20 years, you've scored music for 7 children's BAFTA winners, which is not a bad score.
Whoa.
Aha. Sorry. Right. So Kidscreen again this year, Sandy?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be doing the virtual event just because of my work schedule through February, but my preference would have been to be in real life because I think it's such a fantastic event, and it has been for me. So
yeah, it's valuable. Ange is a writer, head writer, content developer, and a very regular visitor to Kidscreen. What's your plan for this year, Ange?
Hello, I'm planning to go in real life, all things being well.
Right, great.
It's been brilliant for me, so.
Yeah, and I know, and I always characterize Ange as it's somewhat unusual because the first time you ever went, you had no agenda. You actually decided to take the plunge, go, spend the money, and actually find out what it was about, what actually happened, how you could best use it. So that, I was always very impressed by that.
Oh, thank you. It was an interesting trip to arrive on a purely fact-finding mission, not having set a single meeting. I would never, ever do that again.
No, don't do that again. No, don't do that again. Okay, let's explore some why questions. And remember, everybody, you can do Q&A. I can see your question, Lucy. I'll get to it as quickly as I can. Put them in the Q&A. We want them right now. Why go to Kidscreen? What do you get from Kidscreen? Shall we start with you, Dom?
Okay.
I mean, obviously, as a distributor, it is a vital part of your annual timetable.
Yeah, it is. And I think what makes Kidscreen different than any of the other events, I mean, I think we go to, 10, 12 events a year, but this is the only event that actually takes place in the United States of America. And if you consider that is still the biggest and most important market in our business, as well as the home of Hollywood and the home of all the studios, etc., there's a distinct advantage of being able to meet Americans and Canadians especially who don't necessarily travel and you wouldn't meet anywhere else in the world. So that's what makes it unique and special for us.
Yeah. Sandy, what about yourself? You just said it's really good and it's really valuable. In what way? What does it do for your business?
Well, it means that I can meet producers and creators, because that's who I really want to speak to, is those people who are actually going to give me work. So like,
you've got to send us.
So
you've got to send us your list for the reception, by the way.
All right.
Oh no, that doesn't work. You're not going.
on the virtual, yeah. And but it does mean that I get to meet people I would not have met otherwise, and I think it's a really good networking opportunity. I mean, I think I first went in 2017, so I've had 3 in real life events and 1 virtual, but I've come out with 3 series from that, and also developed relationships and working relationships with people in terms of development and pitching, which has been invaluable. So I have things where I'm kind of attached to projects that I've created in Kidscreen, and I just would not have got that.
And so when you say you get these meetings, how are you getting the meetings? Because let's be honest, the Kidscreen exchange doesn't always work. The big players don't always play ball in the exchange. We've got to be absolutely frank about that.
Yeah, I mean, it is a numbers game trying to get those meetings. And so I try to approach as many people through the exchange as I can. But I also do a lot of research elsewhere, look up their emails, try and get hold. Doing the research is just essential. I mean, finding out what people do so that you're not wasting their time or your time. What I do is I kind of, for the real life, is I actually create a kind of big spreadsheet with people's thumbnail photos, because sometimes you can't get hold of people, but you might bump into them to a lunch queue. And so it's that sort of thing. So actually, if you don't, then you're constantly referencing, well, who have I not been able to catch or speak, to. Mm-hmm. So it's those sort of things. But yeah, it is try and get in early and try and get those meetings as possible. And if you can't do it via the exchange, I email direct, basically. Right.
And getting hold of those emails is just a case of research. I agree. One small way to everyone forgets this, but the CMC website keeps everything. So downloadable delegate lists from way back when. There could be email addresses in there for you. Certainly there'll be profiles. You'll be able to sort of see what companies people are in right now. It's quite a handy database and very searchable. There's a search engine right there on the front end. And how do you go about this then? I mean, I know from going to Kidscreen that you've moved from that first time you went with no agenda to very solid agendas now, and definite people you need to meet, people you're already working for, and new prospects. Tell us about both those things, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I would aim to be getting at least 40 meetings in over 3 days. That's, that's my aim, because obviously if you're going to spend the money to go, you really need to maximize it. A tiny tip just on sending emails out is that if you're part of the official UK delegation, put that in your subject heading for the email, because I'm sure, it's just a little bit of, enticement for somebody to actually open and read your email, but definitely don't just rely on the Kidscreen exchange. And I would be probably looking to start setting meetings even before the holidays start. I know
you're already registered. You and Sandy are both registered for UK at Kidscreen in its two forms.
Yeah. I mean, I've been going since, my first Kidscreen was in 2011, and that was just a fact-finding mission. It was before the CMC ran the delegation, I think.
It was.
I do remember going to it was Rich Powell did an event. Was it with PACT, maybe?
I think he just did it himself. The first year. DOT did it themselves. It was just a sort of gathering.
Yeah, but you can have serendipitous meetings, because it was at that first Kidscreen in New York that I met the woman who then became my agent several years down the line. So I think it's important to obviously go strategically, set meetings with people you really want to see, and then leave space for being able to just bump into people. And then maintain and nurture those relationships. That's a really good, reason that I'm going, is to catch up with people that, I might have met just a couple of times before. Just keep meeting them, and you never know where things lead several years down the line.
Right, so which parts of what Nelson and Maggie were talking about earlier? So, for example, the conference. How much value is there in the conference, Dom, for you?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started going, I was buying, not selling. So it to me, as a Kidscreen was an educational platform where we would be able to listen to your peers and to other sectors, listening to people in the licensing businesses. This is probably pre-digital, but, digital then came along and you learned a lot from app developers and game developers. And I think a lot of broadcasters and people that we look to for commissioning, not all of them are there shopping. Some of them are there to enjoy the conference and to absorb new ideas and new thinking. All the big developments like YouTube announcements, all these things often they kickstart at Kidscreen. Subjects like diversity and equal opportunities for people in the industry. These are really important subjects that, it's not all transaction.
Mental health is
exactly. It's not all buying and selling. And I think it's well worth paying attention.
It's trends, isn't it? It's trends. It's people's shopping lists, or just getting a vague sense of what's on their shopping list. So if you do get a chance to meet them, if you do bump into them in the corridor, there's no better way than to be able to say, oh, I heard you say you're really interested in mindfulness, or I heard you say that BLM is really high on your agenda. I got this thing that I've been doing. Can I drop it on your desk sometime? That it's so much better if you indicate, who the hell they are and what it is they're talking about.
Exactly. And remember that it's not all big conferences too. There are smaller side meetings with the 30 minutes when you can really hear firsthand, talk to, maybe they're talking to a room full, but you really understand what that broadcaster is all about. And it's often a broadcaster that you may never get the opportunity to meet face to face for more than 5 seconds. You actually
And you
a
might
full
get a
30
question
minutes.
in one of those.
Completely, yeah, and you get a full picture.
So then there's the Nelson and Maggie. They talked about the more formal networking. You know, the ballot, the things that you have to go into the ballot for. Sandy, do you use those at all?
I do. It's kind of well, I thought I may as well, because it was there to be used, you know. So how useful it's really useful to be able to speak to certain people. But actually, the truth is that for me personally, some of the broadcasters are kind of too high up the chain.
Yes.
So I actually need to get further down the chain. But actually,
and they don't do that many with producers or the bigger sort of distributor producer houses.
Yeah. But if it's someone who actually it makes a lot of production themselves, plus, you know, then actually they're really worthwhile speaking to.
Yeah. Is that the same for you as a writer, Ange, that sometimes they're a bit high up the food chain?
No, I was just going to say that I've established some really good relationships with broadcasters just from those lunches with and cocktails with sessions. But I think the mistake.
So where does that lead you? Does that lead you to them saying, "Oh, have you thought about Ange for writing on this series we're about to commission?"
Yes, and also coming to me, asking me, you know, at this stage in my career, you know, we want to see your pictures. So they've started to come to me now.
So it's less the writing, more the content development, the IP development with the broadcasters. Yeah, of course.
I think the key in those things, though, is not to go to pitch an idea in those sessions. It's not about that, you know. It's definitely build a relationship first.
Someone once said to me that the elevator pitch does not exist. I've said this many times at these CMC events. The elevator, if you get caught in the elevator with someone really important, find out the names of their kids and if they've got any. And the next time you meet them, repeat the names back at them, and then you'll get a meeting with them because they'll be impressed. So it's getting yourself noticeable. That's what the elevator pitch is about. I think that 8-minute moment is to say, I do a load of stuff. You know, you'll be wanting to see some of this sometime. You know, it sounds a little vague and unfocused, but I think it's deeply important, especially for freelancers, to get across because there are so many of you. Just very quickly, I mean, obviously the socializing there is great fun, and you know, you do get to bump into people in the corridor. I know a small animation producer said to me the other day, I do go to Kidscreen. I don't get many meetings back. I don't, you know, because we don't have the track record yet for people to be coming back at me and giving me the meetings. But I do bump into people in the corridors, and they will give you 5 minutes of their time. So that is not an entirely a mythical thing. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think those serendipitous meetings around, you know, the pool or whatever, you know. I think also what's really interesting about it is often people tend not to be in huge groups at Kidscreen. They tend to be in smaller groups. So it's actually easier to approach people, I find. You know, sometimes at CMC, you know, because it's home territory, there's a lot of people going from one company and they tend to stick together. But actually, if there's only one or two from that company which they will be in Kidscreen, it's a lot easier to go and chat to them.
That's true, yes.
Yeah.
Let's consider other markets briefly. Dom, oh, sorry, did you want to say?
I was just going to say, well, one of the advantages of Kidscreen is it all takes place in one hotel. So it's not spread out over multiple locations. So it is very condensed. So literally you could just stand in one place for the entire 3 days, and everybody at some point will walk past you.
Yeah, just stand next to
one way
a
in and one way
coffee
out. So if you really want to meet people, just stand by the entrance because that's where everybody comes in, everybody goes out.
Yeah, or the toilets.
Well, there are many toilets.
Preferably. That's true. You have to know which toilet.
Well, you know, I think it's important because a lot of people do stay in that hotel. You know, and obviously it's not always the cheapest option, so people have to spend outside. But the more time you can spend in the hotel, the more likely you are to bump into someone. So, you know, you get up early, get there, as we do anyway, because we're all traveling with jet lag. So get there early and you know, have your coffee and your breakfast in there. You're more likely to meet people, especially if you're staying somewhere else. Don't be going back to your hotel to do emails. That's the kind of point.
Yeah, disappearing is the crazy thing to do. Yes.
Yeah, sit in the. I mean, it's the bar is the lobby, and the lobby is the bar. So you kind of always around people.
And I did want to sort of compare it with other markets. So the obvious comparison is with Cannes, which is incredibly spread out, and your legs really feel it after a while. And you never feel, if you are trying to do things on spec, you never feel you're in quite the right place.
Yeah, yeah.
And
also,
you've done Cannes. You represented us at Cannes once.
Yes, I've done Cannes a few times, trotted up and down the Croisette. It's completely different because people are spread out. So as Dom said, everybody's under one roof really at Kidscreen. I think you do need to be a bit respectful that obviously people do need some space. Don't pitch to anybody in restrooms, for example, because, you know, you do get the sense that people do go in there to hide and, you know, and have a break. But yeah, it's easier to spot people around.
We've got a question from Helena Mitchell. For people new to the industry, thinking about investing in Kidscreen, very good point, investing in Kidscreen. What is your biggest tip, having been to so many? Sandy, what's your biggest tip?
I think being careful with your money, spending where you need to spend the money, and don't spend the money where you don't need to. So, I mean, like Don mentioned about people staying in the hotel, for instance. I've not stayed in the hotel. I have stayed down the road at the Eve, and it cost me like $2,000 for the week. So I then quickly moved on to Airbnb, and my Best Buy Airbnb was 200 quid, you know, for the week. And there's also in Miami, there's a free people mover system that goes right along the front. So you can, you know, get an Airbnb in Brickell and still be at the hotel in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And that is really, so I think, you know, spending money wisely, really. And,
Ange, what's your top tip, would you say?
Top tip, I've always used Expedia in the past to get a really good deal on flight and hotel. I actually haven't done that this year because I decided to book my flight separately. But yeah, looking for deals, but you've got to look at the scale of Miami and where you're going to stay. Don't go and stay on South Beach because it doesn't look very far. But if you're stuck in a taxi that's, you know, on the bridge, it could take you at least 45 minutes.
Traffic is a nightmare in Miami. We think it's bad in London. On a game night, there's a basketball stadium up the road. On a game night, you can be stuck in a traffic jam for an hour and a half just trying to get to South Beach, for example, which is a lovely place to be, but you do not want to be there at breakfast time thinking I could be now standing in the hotel actually doorstepping someone.
I think ideally stay as close to the hotel as you can in that downtown area. It's really improved since we first started going. It's got more of a neighborhood feel, I think. More restaurants and bars popped up. The first year we went there, it did feel a little bit bleak, but I think you know, definitely stay in that area. And
as Sandy said, there are a lot of apartments that are Airbnb-ing just across the river from where we are. So, in the close ones, you can walk it in 10 minutes, and in the slightly more distant ones, you can take the people mover. It's true. I don't know about travel. At the moment, travel's all a bit awkward. It seems to be quite complex buying air tickets at the moment. Ange, I don't know what you've done yours, I think.
Yeah, I booked my flight last month. I'm going on the Virgin flight from Heathrow because it's a brilliant flight. It goes out at 10:40 in the morning, gets in at a decent time in the afternoon. I'm actually flying out on the Thursday. That's my plan. Before the event to give me time to get over the jet lag, because that's something else. You know, if you're spending the money to go there, you want to be in a really good state to actually go and do the business. So I personally think it's worth going for a couple of days, you know, before Kidscreen actually starts. Obviously, it's nice a couple of days after as well, you know, when you can relax. But
you're agreeing with that, Dom.
I mean, I think just as really an add-on to that, it's like any market, the key's in the preparation. It's great to have, if you have the luxury of like Anne said, you know, having no agenda. Maybe that's, some people do that. Even people who have, you know, very busy years, they sometimes take a year where they're not so busy. But I think finding out who everybody is and what and how the industry works as much as possible, if you're new to it, before you arrive, then at least, you know, you're able to ask lots of questions, because it is a very small industry. we're all connected, the 3 degrees of separation, probably from everybody in the industry. So you can ask questions and who knows who, and, you know, we're all in the kids business, whether it's creating music or selling shows or writing scripts. In some way or another, we've all got something in common. And I think that just to chat to as many people as you possibly can and find out who's connected and
wherever we can, you know, that's if you are a member of the delegation, that is what we're there for. Or if you're thinking of joining, that is what Sarah and I are there for. And if we don't know, you know, we will bounce questions to people like yourself. We do it all the time to get some expert advice back. And of course, Lauren will be full of the sort of more practical side of how you get there, how you manage your delegation status and so on. I've got one very quick question from Lucy, which is, how essential is it to have a sizzle reel ready? And in her case, she says, for a live action program.
I mean, it's not always so straightforward to put a sizzle reel together on a live action unless, you know, you've actually started filming. So I'd say it's not essential. Obviously, if you've got a way of being able to do it, and depending on whether it's a drama or, I don't know, documentary, whatever. But yeah, I think it's a sort of a luxury. It could be sometimes a next step beyond the initial concept pitch and mood board, and, you know, just giving people general direction of where you think the show will look and where it will be set. If somebody's keen and wants to know more, and then maybe you want to invest in a sizzle reel, but I think it's not essential for a first pitch.
And I should put my promo in now and say, for people thinking of making their sizzle reels, we have editing facilities at CMC that we are hiring out to people. So, sorry, Ange, yeah.
I was just going to add to what Dominic said. As a content creator, I've gone out there, you know, testing the water with ideas, you know, going to obviously do a verbal pitch with a one sheet, not necessarily a fully developed Bible and, you know, test animation and so forth. So, I mean, bear in mind, some of the meetings that you have are only going to be 15 minutes, you know,
yeah. So showing a reel can just eat into valuable time. Sandy, you'll be virtual, so you have the capacity to put up a sizzle reel on your virtual profile, as well as to add your clips to our big reel.
Yeah,
and our big reel is very long. Once you've got 50 or 60 people in the delegation, it becomes a very long show reel.
Yeah, I mean, I always make sure at Kidscreen that I've got my show reel on my iPad and separate headphones and stuff to listen to. But the truth is, actually, if I've made all of the effort to go to Kidscreen, people assume that I'm able to do what I'm good at doing, you know, in certain ways, in terms of writing music, you know. So I haven't had that many people who've asked to listen to a show reel when I've actually been in the meetings, because, you know, they've listened to it afterwards, you know. But you know, I always have it there, absolutely, just in case, you know. And
great, thank you very much, all of you. Top tips for getting meetings was my last thing. We've run out of time, so it's got to be one sentence. Dom, one sentence. Your top tip. Don't give up. I love it.
Keep trying.
We should set this to music. And don't give up.
Do your research.
Do your research. Sandy.
And I'd say perseverance, but I'd also say learn from my first time I went, as I had all my meetings on my iPhone, and the iPhone happily changed all the timings from UK time to, you know, and it completely messed me up. So print your meetings out onto a piece of paper.
Very good point. Yes, you never know that we could be in an apocalyptic situation. So yes, print out. Thanks to everyone for being honest, comprehensive. I'll hand over to Sarah now for our final section.
That was brilliant. Thank you very much. I think there were a few other questions in the Q&A. Some were about cancellations, which we can pick up later. And the other one was about the virtual events, which I have to say, I think the group came together and some of the group are still in touch. So I think that's I think a lot of people got a lot out of it, and it'll be interesting to see who, what, where and when this year. So without further ado, the next piece, having got through all the practicalities and you've arrived virtually or in person, wherever you are, The big question that everybody has is, how are you going to get noticed, and how do you make that perfect pitch? Because you've done everything. And the one thing I think comes up over and over again is people pitching quite often never have the luxury of seeing other people pitch. So you're pitching in a vacuum. We've got 3 more guests, also big Kidscreen campaigners, with senior roles in finding ideas, making partnerships, and developing relationships. Today we've got David Levine, who is Chief Content Officer for Moonbug Entertainment, which means he leads the creative and production teams both in LA and in London, producing content for preschoolers and kids across the globe. David leads the Moonbug IP expansion by taking properties like Cocomelon and Blippi into new formats and markets and going on to new platforms. Until relatively recently, David was at Disney Channel, and he was there for 16 years across a variety of programming and content and strategy roles. Chris Rose is the Vice President of Production and Development for Nickelodeon International, heading up the animation and live action development and production teams. He's more than 20 years experience in broadcasting development and production at Beano Studios, ABC Australia, the BBC, and more. Alison Warner is MD of Blue Zoo Rights. It's a division of Blue Zoo Studio, which it has responsibility for the growth and exploitation of Blue Zoo's original content, including hit shows like Number Blocks and Alpha Blocks. She sources original properties and develops them and produces in-house, from preschool across right the way through to features. So without further ado, we're going to talk about how that happens. We've got a real mix, and I noticed we've got quite a few new names. So we've got quite a few people that are new to the business who are with us today, as well as people who've been here a lot longer. It's always good, even if you have been around, to just have that reminder of what's happening now and how to pitch, however long we've been doing it. All of you see a wide range of projects and pitches. So what we're going to do is just go through some advice. First, with the prep of what should people be doing now? Then we'll move on to, when you're there, how do you deliver it? And then lastly, after you've done all of that and you've got back, what's the best way to follow up? So we're going to make it quite chatty. I'm going to throw a question out to somebody individually, and then we're going to sort of discuss it for a little while and then come back. So I'm going to start with Chris. What would you say the golden rules are when you're preparing your pitch? Sort of shaping the content to deliver in a very short period of time. You've worked on it for months and months and months, and you've got 8 minutes, possibly 15.
So I think, and thank you. Hello, everyone. I think, you've worked really hard to get your content, your idea into shipshape. You're immensely proud of it. So now you have to go and pitch it to someone. First of all, you need to know who you're pitching it to. Are you pitching it to a network, an individual, a platform, a producer, a partner? I think you have to ask yourself, is it the right partner for the project? If you have a big, epic sci-fi adventure, mystery, murder drama, it's probably not for Nickelodeon, but it might be for a different platform. So have a think about who you want to target when you're planning your schedule at Kidscreen. And also you need to think about who the audience is, not just the audience of the platform, but actually who you're talking to when you're doing your pitch. So as somebody mentioned earlier, there are many representatives of the different platforms and networks and partners attending Kidscreen. You have heads of studio, you have coordinators, executives, acquisitions executives, development executives. So who are you actually having your meeting with? And you need to consider that in your appraisal of the project and how you present your project to them. And also you need to think about what stage you're going in to talk to whoever it is you're talking to. If you've if you've got a full Bible and you've done a bit of animation and you've done 10 scripts, it's probably not the right time to come into me, for example, at Nickelodeon International, where we like to develop ideas with you. If you already have, a partner on board, then, it's probably more of a different license agreement that you want to talk to someone else in the business for. So again, that's not a productive use of your time or our time. But certainly in the kind of setting up of the meetings, as you're doing your investigation and research into who you want to talk to, they're the kind of questions that you can ask instead of, just sending a dump of materials, if you like, to someone, say, are you the right person to or do you research first and find out actually if they are the right person to do that? So I think before you even get to Miami, it's about knowing who you want to talk to, what it is you want to talk to them about, how the show or the idea fits within the commissioning and broadcasting and platform remit. Is it the right format? Is it the right duration? Does it target the right audience? Is it girl skewing? Is it boy skewing? All these are questions you have to think about and you have to be able to get across almost immediately. There are a number of questions that we're all thinking as you're doing your pitch. Okay, so our strategy is this. Does it meet this requirement? So I know the strategy is changing. Will it meet those requirements? We're always thinking as you're talking to us, and you really need to be able to sell your idea as concisely and clearly as possible. You have to go into that meeting thinking, what do I want to get out of this meeting? You're unlikely to walk away with a commission from that meeting, but you will, I think, as Angela said, start a relationship that will mean that you're able to have meetings year on year ongoing. And maybe if the idea isn't quite right at that particular moment in time, something in the future might actually be even better for that relationship.
Alison, David, do you want to chip in on that one?
I think everything that Chris is saying is actually completely right, to do your homework. And actually, I was just thinking the very first time I think I met David was pitching to him at Kidscreen. I think either 2011 or 2012 when he was at Disney. And I remember there was a lot of laughing. Karen Miller was there as well. But I think part of the pitching should be, relax, don't get too nervous about it. Enjoy it. If you've done your homework and your show, your project that you're taking, it's about, being at ease with it and actually having a bit of a laugh and a smile. And I just remember that occasion as being very funny. Don't know if we got a deal away there, but.
I might also just add, one of the other great things about Kidscreen is the meetings and the social opportunities, right? And you're going to wind up meeting people. I think you don't even know what platform they're from, or you don't know where they are in that platform, and so I think it's also okay to know that you don't know things and that you don't know people, and you just ask them, hey, what do you do? Where, what are you looking for? What was the favorite thing that you saw so far? And someone else, Dama and the team had mentioned about going to sessions. That's always a good icebreaker. Talking about the keynote, for example, because usually the keynote's pretty big, and that usually sets the tone for the summit. And especially if there's someone that you really want to see, go to their 30 minutes or get into their 30 minutes or go to their panel and tell them they were awesome on it. And that's a great way to connect.
I think something that you've really got to think about when you're heading into a pitch is, we're all saying, do your homework. But I think it's really good to actually always set the scene at the start of the pitch, saying, I'm here with a project that it's going to be aimed at children at this age. It's going to be this long. It's probably going to be CG or something like that, because it's always a bit of a relief to know if you're being pitched something as to what it actually is. And it's really, really good to get those sort of practicalities out of the way. And obviously then be passionate, be authentic about your pitch, but finish it by saying what you're looking for as well. Because sometimes when you pitch, or I've been on the receiving end of pitches where people are just showing me stuff, and I'm, well, what do you want? You know, do you want us to be a co-producer? Are you just showing it? Do you want me to say whether I like it or not? So it's always really good to say, I'm looking for this. I'm looking for some feedback, or I'm looking for a co-producer, or I'm looking for a pre-sale, because, you know, people need to know that.
I think that takes us to the meetings, which and one thing before we get into a sort of more formal meeting is all those meetings you have when you are sitting around the tables in the dining hall, meeting people who randomly sat down, and as you say, you don't know who they are, but it's your opportunity to just get in there and start talking about your project. So knowing what it is from the heart and being able to make it come alive. So I'm going to ask David, because when I was commissioning, I used to visualize what people were saying. So they tell you the pitch and you start running a video and going, do I believe that child that they've just told me about would be sitting watching that? Do you want to tell us what you're doing in those meetings and which ones work best for you?
You know, I think the ones where you're able to really make the connection to the audience and say, you know, why you think it's going to work for today's kids and how it works across multiple platforms. So I've spent most of my career taking pitches, and now I'm on the other side of the table, which is interesting. And so I think it's always going in to be able to say why this works for the audience and why this works for today's audience. And ideally, you know, if you've got some kind of proof point, whether if it's from a book or if it's from a YouTube series, or it's, you know, I'm hesitant to say if it's from your own kids, because, you know, that's one of the things that I think doesn't always work so well. You know, you're making claims based off of kitchen sink research, but I think you know, being able to establish that and believe it is I think important.
Chris,
I think some of the best pitches I've seen are where the creator or producer has really considered how the idea fits in with what's on air currently, or, you know, in the legacy titles. And there's a really great synergy between something new and exciting, but also what currently exists. So, you know, we have SpongeBob. We're not looking for more underwater-based adventures featuring sponges. But if you've got a character with a strong emotional connection and a group of mates, you know, in a different environment, then, you know, we'd love to hear more about that. So I think really, 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 as Alison said, do your homework, but also, you know, think creatively and excitingly about what fresh new titles could sit within the kind of family of brands that we have at Viacom.
So I think everybody's been on both sides of the coin, having to pitch and also receiving pitches. And when you do get 40 a day, and a lot of them have come in and being, this is the next big thing, or the next whatever the latest thing is. And it's like, well, we don't need the next, as you say, we don't need the next SpongeBob. We need the new, whatever it is. What is it that people do that makes you sit up when you're tired at the end of the day, you're exhausted, everything's been the same? What do people do with their pitches that makes you think, oh, I need to pay attention?
For me, passion and integrity. I think without passion and integrity, if you're reading, you know, something, if you're reading a PowerPoint to me, and I'm reading the same PowerPoint as you, that passion and integrity is not come across. But if you're, and I've done pitches, and I hope that I pitch with conviction about the shows that I'm, you know, wanting to produce. And that's what we as broadcasters and platforms want to hear. We want to hear why this show deserves to be made and your passion behind that project.
And I one of the most memorable pitches was where it showed a scene that was just particularly emotional around it was a child missing their pet, and you had a room, like half the room of the Disney buyers were like starting to cry. I mean, I mean, we were like super emotional, and it was, I think if you can kind of cut through with something that's really heartfelt, and you can make that emotional connection with the pitch, that really, it resonates, and yeah, particularly everyone's really tired and a little frazzled and probably a little hungover. So, if you can get them, where they're a little soft, it helps.
And just to reiterate what Chris was saying, I think that if you're taking, your development materials to Kidscreen, it's not a good thing just to have like your iPad open with the actual Bible. So you're, as he's saying, reading it through, like, oh, and this is the character with all these kind of, a whole listing of different traits and things like that. It's far better to really peel back the presentation, just to have a few images really as a hint, and for you to totally know what your show is about. So you can pitch it and just have images as a guide so that people can start visualizing things, because any words are really distracting. People start reading them. And I think the same thing back in the old days when we had pieces of paper, never hand over the piece of paper because people start reading that as well. So, but nowadays in this digital world, I think it's just a few key images and talk about it. And, everybody is time strapped. You've got to make the very best, and quite often at Kidscreen, by the time you've found your person, you've sat down, you've asked how they were, how their flight was, you've only quite often got about 5-10 minutes. So it's really making the very best of that time and being, making sure your images really match what you're going to say.
And I think on that point, I have been in pitches where people have spent the entire pitch warming the person up and not actually got to the story and tried to get the next meeting. And so it's finding out if somebody's running late and they come to you to say, how much time have you got now that you're late for my meeting? But it is about just shaping that time so that you can get your points across. And something else that all of you might have as well is it's very rare. I can't think of one example where you've only got one decision maker. So when you're telling this story, my thought is you've got that the other person receiving it's got to be able to pick it up and go, we saw one, it's the one where, it's that just know what it is and have something memorable about it. What do you all think about the process when you as we start moving into when you get back? As somebody that's been pitched to a lot, what is it that makes something that you go, well, I want to pick up the phone to them. When that email comes in, I'll respond to it.
I think it's always handy to have this is an X meets Y, preferably in the vein of the network that you're talking to's schedule, the content library. Yes, we do have to circulate it with our colleagues. There are many decision makers in the process. We have to do a good job ourselves of selling it upwards. So if you're able to articulate a brilliant pitch, we will also be able to articulate that pitch upwards and sideways and to all our colleagues in the various divisions of the business. So it is often about keeping your pitch simple, getting the important points across, having, as Alison said, really peeling back the layers and in that particular instance, kind of selling the bare selling point, the essentials of the pitch that we need to, have further documentation. We might later get a script, we might later get a more detailed Bible that we can circulate internally. But in that initial pitch, we certainly wouldn't have time in that 8 to 10 minutes to receive all the material. It really is the basis of a further conversation, which will take months, to be perfectly honest, because there's a lot of people involved.
So we have got a question, which is, do you prefer someone that just wants to sell an idea to you, or do you prefer someone that wants to collaborate and develop the idea with you? And if you develop the idea with him, which are the steps after that pitch? That's from Tia de Linda is asking that. So how does the pitch process work from that perspective?
I think the pitch process, I mean, it depends. I mean, obviously, you know, as a studio, we are looking to obviously pitch ideas to broadcasters, but at the same time receive ideas. So I do both the pitching and receiving of ideas. And I think, again, it depends on, you know, for us to receive ideas at a very early stage is much better, because if it comes fully developed, then it's really, well, what are you looking at us to do? You know, do you want us just to be the studio that's going to make it, or do you want us to help sell it? And in all honesty, it's far better for us to come, you know, very early on with, this is the bones of an idea, which, you know, we're very passionate about, and we believe that it's something very fresh and new and would be a fit for your studio. So again, it's back to that doing the homework.
We're exactly the same, Alison. The earlier the better in the idea generation process. We love working with creators from all over the world. So we would love to work with you to develop your idea to make it as strong as it possibly can be for our brands.
And a quick question. It's that moment where you get that gut feeling. What do you think it is? What's the secret to having a show that then gives you that gut feeling?
Ooh, you know,
I would say a unique point of view with an emotional hook. I mean, I remember when Bluey was first pitched at the ATF at the Asian Animation Summit.
I remember.
And we were there Thanksgiving, and you know what? Knew it in the room. Couldn't do anything about it for various reasons. Then was able to get back into it later, but you knew it in the room. So I think it's the emotional hook, unique sensibility, authentic storytelling, and coming from an authentic place. That'll do it.
So we've been to Kidscreen. Everybody's tried pitching, keeping to time. The other thing I would say is keep the ball in play and think about just getting the next meeting. It's back to that developing the relationship. So even if you haven't got a brilliant response about that project and you're talking to them, I used to track people, because you track companies, you go, that's nice, can't do anything with it now, but actually I really like them, I like their work. How do you follow up and keep that ball in play?
Well, obviously, email is the predominant tool, but we are all overwhelmed with email. I just think keep the conversation going. If it is email, that's great. If you're able to go to follow-on events, fantastic. I would say you don't need to arrange a meeting at every single event with the person. It's just good to keep an ad hoc conversation going. And if you have a new idea, you know, send that through. Ask them if this idea floats their boat, that kind of thing. Just keep the conversation going. Keep building on the foundations of that relationship.
At a minimum, I'd say just connect on LinkedIn, because I think most people are on LinkedIn, and most people I think are more open to those kinds of social media connections. And then, you know, you can post stuff and you show up in their feed, and then that allows you to have some connection to them outside of, you know, the formal meetings, etc.
And I think in terms of the communications, keep it going, but not to the point of just repeating what you've already said. So I would always say, if you've got new news, if you've got you've got a co-producing partner, or you've managed to secure a pre-sale on a project or something like that, then is the time to start communicating it. I think just to drop a note saying, oh, you know, checking in. Well, I think we all nudge gently from time to time, but you've got to, again, not overplay that one, I would say.
I mean, Chris and I've talked about this before as well. It's that email overload, and people get very frustrated. But actually, accessing the other side of the emails chains that come through, it's finding a way to do that email where you haven't written War and Peace, and it's really easy to pick up and follow. And don't make people feel guilty. That's my top tip. They will come back if they can, and it's how can you do that? Just a quick question on virtual. Will you be going to the virtual 2 weeks later?
I will see how it goes in real life, because I'm really looking forward to everything being there. Something that I think Maggie was saying earlier on, I always want to go to the sessions, never get a chance to go to most of them. So it's great actually having the virtual Kidscreen as well. Then you can go in and look at some of the actual sessions. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
I echo that. I found that immensely useful last year, being able to watch the sessions, because it's something that you have every intention of doing as a broadcaster and a producer, and they get whittled away.
They do.
Will you, so David, will you be available for people to talk to, whether that's speed pitching virtually or whether that's one-to-ones or sitting and hanging out in the delegate lounge? Will people be able to reach you somehow at the virtual event?
Oh, I don't know. We'll have to see. I haven't done a lot of the virtual events. It's not my forte. But I'll certainly try and give it a whirl.
It was fun last year. I think people who are going virtually are looking at how many people will go to both events. That's the purpose of that question. So thank you so much, everybody. We're going to have to finish there, and I'm going to hand back to Greg. But thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Sarah. That's it then, everybody. I hope we've covered all the angles for you, or at least a good number of them. If there's something you're burning to ask further, then join me and Sarah, some of the UK Kidscreen team from CMC, Chris, Angela, Sandy, Lauren, Nelson and Maggie, and I think Tony, John and Ross from DIT are all going to be in Wonder for further details. Once again, Lauren is posting the link and the password in the chat now, so you can actually copy from there. Thanks again to DIT for their support. Thank you to all our speakers. Thank you to Sarah, as ever, for helping us put all this together and holding it together today so beautifully. And thanks to all of you for joining in. We're all in this community together. Tailor it to your current situation and your needs, but if you've yet to decide whether to go to Kidscreen in whatever form, we hope this will have helped you make that decision and make up your mind. And of course, we very much want you to come with the UK delegation if we can. We want to gather up everyone. It appeals to my obsessive zeal if we have everyone in the same basket. But then the basket is a very big one, and you can do what you want. You can rattle about in the basket once you're in it. We can help you get the best possible outcomes, I hope. You can register on the CMC website, and all the benefits and the various options of the two different delegations are listed there. And again, Lauren is posting a link to that website in the chat right now. So it remains to say we'll either see you in Miami, in virtual Miami, or in a couple of minutes in Wonder. Don't forget to use a Chrome browser for Wonder. TTFM. Bye.